Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to cross the Øresund once again, and we're going to go back to Copenhagen in Denmark and revisit a brewery that's featured on the channel many times before. I've had some really nice beers from these guys over the years, a good few different styles, but I think it is definitely fair to say that this brewery are best known for their different New England hazy, whatever you want to call them, IPAs. Now, the beer that we're going to have a look at today is one of their latest releases. It's supposed to be quite nice, so very much looking forward to trying this one. Hopefully it's another good beer, hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, like I said, we are going to go to Copenhagen. We're going to go to Herlev in the northwest of the city to be precise, and we're going to have a look at another beer from Gamma Brewing Company. So this particular beer is called Hyperspace Ghost. It comes in at 6.7% ABV, and it's another New England hazy, whatever you want to call it, IPA. So yeah, this beer was released here in Sweden as part of the Lokal och Småskalig assortment through Systembolaget for February of 2022. And yeah, I think it was released in Denmark in the middle of January, if I remember rightly. So yeah, this one I think should hopefully be quite nice. I did see this beer actually just after I arrived back in Scandinavia from back home in Scotland. So yeah, looking forward to finally getting around to trying this one actually. I tried one of the other Gamma beers recently as well, which was Cairo, which I thought was pretty good. But yeah, always nice to try some Danish beers here on the channel. As I've told you before, Denmark has a very strong beer scene these days, and Gamma are one of the kind of front runners, I guess we could say, when it comes to the New England IPAs. But let's crack on with this one then and see how we get on. So, as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Gamma Brewing Company before, and you will no doubt see more added to that list in the near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you happen to be interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Danish beers I've reviewed for you. That's being added to very regularly, of course, because I live in the south of Sweden, very close to Denmark. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then to tell you a little bit about Gamma Brewing Company then. So as I've mentioned to you already, Gamma Brewing Company are now based in Herlev in the northwest of Copenhagen on Sjælland in eastern Denmark, and the company was founded back in 2015 by 4 friends who were bartenders in the various beer bars around Copenhagen, and they basically used to talk quite often about how it would be cool to have their own brewery, but little did they know that would soon come to fruition. So in the early days, they took in another co-owner, and so the team at the brewery are Jakob, Anders, Jesper, Koi and Nick, and they all had a little bit of homebrewing experience between them, and 2 of them had actually worked for Ulsnegern in Copenhagen, who went on to purchase the former Stronzo brewery in Gørløse, and it was this that became Ølkollektivet. But the co-owner, one of the co-owners involved in Gamma Brewing as well, is also a co-owner of the May or Ulsnegern bar, which is in Aarhus in Denmark. But apparently, the guys at Gamma were invited to join Ølkollektivet, and they got a good deal on a 20 hectolitre tank, and so they started the brewery up without any experience of running a business. But it went very well for them, and they expanded twice, and we're producing around 500 hectolitres at maximum at Ølkollektivet. So I think 500 hectolitres is what? That is about 500,000 litres, if my calculations are working properly. But Ølkollektivet has been home at various points to different breweries, but the main guys there were Ulsnegern, Gamma Brewing and also Dry and Bitter, and Ulsnegern also brewed the Bad Seed beers under contract before they got their own brewery up near Aalborg, and of course Peter, the master of hoppets, works there these days. But Ghost Brewing and Rooster have also brewed in this facility as well. I don't know where Rooster are brewing these days, but Ghost Brewing have been doing things at Amagerbrygghus in the south of Copenhagen. But in July of 2020, it was announced that Gamma Brewing would move to a new brewery in Herlev, and they worked on building up this brewery facility capacity over the next few months. In February of 2021, they produced their last beers in Gorlöse before they moved to their new site in Herlev, and the first beers were released from there in March. But as of February 2022, when I'm filming this review for you, Gamma Brewing have produced around 160 different kinds of beer, and as I mentioned earlier, they are best known for their New England hazy IPAs. Although in the past we've had West Coast IPAs from them, I've had 1 or 2 Imperial Stouts, and recently I had a Rauch beer as well, which was actually very, very nice. So yeah, that is definitely this is definitely one of the Danish breweries that you want to check out. The other ones that we've mentioned, Ulsnagern and Dry and Bitter, they are definitely worth checking out as well. But I remember Dry and Bitter and Gamma kind of popping up at roughly the same time. I believe the first beers that I tried from both of those breweries actually were West Coast IPAs. But yeah, they are definitely ones that you, those are definitely breweries that you need to check out if you're interested in Danish craft beer. But Copenhagen is a great beer city, of course. You've got the likes of Mikkeller and Toil having a big presence there. Then the next generation that came along was Gamma. Of course, well, the next generation beyond that would have been Amager Bryghus. Then you started to have the likes of Gamma and Dry and Bitter, and these days you've got Slow Burn and Kaleidoscope amongst others actually. So yeah, lots and lots of craft beer activity in Copenhagen, one of the best beer cities in the world in my opinion actually. So yeah, that is everything that we need to say about Gamma Brewing Company for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all of the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go on and actually talk a little bit about the beer itself. So this one, as we mentioned earlier, it comes in at 6.7% ABV. It's a New England hazy IPA, but the hop bill on this one is actually a little bit different. So this one contains Belma, Citra and Zappa. Now Citra we know quite well. 14% alpha acid, and a New England IPA, it's going to give you a lovely big soft juicy mango note and some kind of nice zesty lemony limey characters. But Belma and Zappa are hops that we haven't come across all that often before. So I did a little bit of research on these as well. So Belma, both of them are American incidentally, but Belma was developed by Peterboff Farms in the Yakima Valley in Washington State, and it was released in 2012. It gives between 10 to 12% alpha acid, and it's supposed to give you flavours of orange, melon, and sometimes a little bit of strawberry, so that should be interesting. Zappa, on the other hand, is a hop that I've never had before. I have had Belma once or twice, I'm sure. But Zappa is an American hop developed by CLS Farms in Yakima. It's named after Frank Zappa. There was some sort of collaboration went on with his family, from what I understand. It gives 4 to 8% alpha acid, so very low for an American hop, and it's supposed to give mango passion fruit flavours along with a little bit of mint and pine. So that should be a very interesting combination. So I have to say, this beer has piqued my curiosity. But as you can see, the artwork on this one is very, very nice. This is typical of what you're getting from Gamma these days. There you can see the Gamma Brewing Company symbol, and of course on the can they do have this kind of wavy join between the label, which is great. But yeah, this is a 440ml can. I believe I paid 55 Swedish kroner for this. You know, for a equivalent Swedish IPA, you would pay about 45, 48, something like that. But yeah, you pay a little bit more for this one because it is an import from Denmark. And usually the beers that come from foreign countries, it's an importer that brings them in. So they've got to make a little bit of profit as well. So makes sense. But yeah, 55 Swedish kroner is about €5.50. It's about, yeah, about €5.50, works out in somewhere in the region of like £5 sterling, I guess, maybe a little bit less than that, and so somewhere in the region of like $6.50 American, I would say. I think it would be roughly about that, but I think the price that we pay in Sweden is roughly about the same as what you would pay over in Denmark. The Danish kroner is worth about between 25 and 30% more than the Swedish one. It's quite a strong currency, of course. But yeah, Hyperspace Ghost, 6.7% New England IPA. Let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. Very curious about this. There we go. Oh, it smells very nice actually. I've just got a little whiff of it as we've opened it up there, and it smells great. So, yeah, there we go. We've got quite a bit of it in the glass. Let me just line that up again because of my OCD. I like things to look nice on the camera. But yeah, anyway, we've got a good chunk of the beer out into the glass and it looks pretty nice. So on the head, with this one before it disappears. I would say this beer is poured with about a half finger of a frothy, I would say perfect white head. That is going to fade away to be a nice thin foamy layer. You can look at that. Very nice looking head there. But yeah, perfect white head on this one. And it is already starting to fade away. But in terms of colour, this one is quite nice. Now, as I've always said, I like to compare New England IPAs to different fruit juices because that's just what they remind me of. And this one looks very much like a kind of rich mango juice, actually. Very lovely, bright yellow colour. There's one or two big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass and a few little ones just going up toward the bottom of that head there. But I mean, overall, it does look pretty nice. But yeah, very bright yellow mango colour. Now, remember, as I always say, the colour of your beer depends on, one, the type of malts that you use. That goes a long way to determining the EBC rating. Two, the length of your wort boil is also going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. Any barrel aging that you do or any adjuncts that you put in will affect that too, but with New England IPAs, we don't need to care about those particular variables. But in terms of the haziness in this one, for a 6.7%er, this actually does have a fair wee bit of haziness to it. And of course, the level of haziness depends on the oat content and the wheat content primarily. The yeast can also play a role, but there's not really a rule about this as you go higher up the alcohol scale. It varies from brewery to brewery and even recipe to recipe. But this one, for a 6.7%er, I think is pretty damn opaque. That's quite impressive. But yeah, other than that, I don't think there's anything else we really need to say about the appearance of this one. It's pretty much as you would expect for a New England IPA. So let's move on to the aroma and see what we can get with this beer. Very curious about this one because of the different hops in here. So we'll start off with the malt base first. Yeah, backbone of this one, it's still pretty fresh. As I said, like when you get the foreign beers over here in Sweden, especially with IPAs, you need to be a little bit careful with them because they will sit in the warehouse for a little bit before you drink them. But so that's why I always make sure I try and do the Danish ones early on from the local orders that I do. But yeah, aroma wise, this one is pretty nice actually. It's got a lot. The first impression of the aroma is that it's a very juicy and actually quite sharp juicy New England IPA, this one, but it's got a lot of lovely kind of soft breadiness behind it, and it's very smooth, malty backbone actually. So yeah, I think this one is going to be pretty nice actually. So yeah, big smooth malty, lovely kind of sharp juicy New England IPA. On the green component, yeah, it's quite bright as well. So yeah, this is going to be interesting. But let's break down that aroma for you a wee bit more in depth and see what we get. So the malty backbone to this one, as you always get, there's a little bit of a kind of there's a wee touch of bread crust to this one, but I'm actually getting quite a lot of soft, fluffy white bread coming out of it, and I think that is really, really nice. But yeah, wee bit of bread crust, lovely, soft, fluffy white bread in there. At the back of the nose, there's a wee bit of at the back of the nose, there is a wee bit of a kind of yeah, there is definitely a little bit of a kind of wheaty bitiness to it, but I think that takes a bit of a back seat. I think this beer really leans a little bit more towards the kind of barley malt and oaty side of things. Now, as I've said before, for me there's 6 different aspects you need to consider of a New England IPA. So one would be the yeasty, would be the kind of yeasty farmhousey side of things. Then you've got the rye leaning grainy side of it. These 2 elements are a bit more common in American brewed New England IPAs, but then you've got the wheaty bitey side, the oaty creamy side, the barley malt bread, and then sometimes you've got sweetness in there as well. And those 4 elements are more common in the European ones. So I think that the European New England IPAs we have are a bit more derived from the Treehouse Trillium side of things, rather than, you know, the Lawsons, the Hill Farmsteads, the Alchemist and things like that. So the ones that we get over here in Europe are a bit more treehousey and Trillium-like, to be honest. But yeah, the malt base in this one is very nice. The oats, you can smell the oats in this one. It's interesting, as I always say, oats are a good indicator of how old your New England IPA is. They've still got a good little bit of creaminess in this one, but you can smell them just starting to get that little bit of dryness, which shows you the beer is getting towards the edge of its prime. So as I always say, if you order Danish beers through the local, the Smokeskaligt here in Sweden, just make sure that you try and drink them as soon as you can. because they will have been sitting for a little bit. But yeah, bread crust, soft white bread, a little bit of wheatiness in the back of the nose. Definitely some nice oaty creamy notes in there, and then there is a wee touch of a kind of Werther's Original butter candy sweetness in this. I'm pretty sure there's a bit of Golden Promise in this one. It smells like Golden Promise for sure. So you get that little bit of Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy thing, and then just a wee tiny touch of like a McVitie's digestive biscuity character. So yeah, the way that this one goes together, I think, is very, very nice. So yeah, malty wise, this one, it goes together really well. But let's focus on the hops, because like we said, that's the interesting part of this one, because there's 2 hops in here that I've not got that much experience with. So on the green component, teeny little bit of earthiness, not a lot, but the green component really leans towards a big floral character, and it's actually quite a wet floral aromaticity, I think, that you get out of this one. On the front of the nose, there's definitely a good little bit of grassiness in there, and it has that wee bit of zesty character, and I would say that's most likely to come from the Citra. Now I always find in New England IPAs the green component isn't quite as prominent as it is in West Coast IPAs, and that's because New England's rely on late addition and dry hopping, and of course that doesn't give you as much bitterness as the early addition hopping will. In West Coast IPAs, of course, have early addition and late and dry hopping, of course. But yeah, the green component in this one is quite nice, definitely quite wet, but still quite fresh and zesty at the same time. But on the fruity side of things, this beer does have quite a little bit going on. So yeah, one thing I will say, it's interesting, I do get a little bit of the minty character that's supposed to come from the Zappa. So yeah, the minty notes that you get out of this, it's almost like they sit underneath the fruit. So that's really interesting. You can definitely smell a little bit of that in there. It reminds me actually of those After Eight chocolates that my mum and dad always used to have. I used to love those actually. But yeah, the aroma that you get out of this one is very, very nice. So on the yeah, the fruity side of things is really interesting, because it almost feels a little bit like it smells a little bit like menthol almost. You can smell that. It clears the tubes, definitely. But yeah, you certainly have. I do get quite a lot of mango out of this, and of course that's going to come from the Belma and from the Citra. So Citra and Belma are both going to give you a little bit of that mango. But certainly I do get a wee bit of the melon, but I think it takes a back seat I do think that takes a little bit of a back seat to the mango. But yeah, I'm actually thinking of mixing these up. I think Zappa's supposed to give you Zappa was supposed to give you a more kind of tropically note, if I remember rightly, like a sort of mango kind of thing. So I think, yeah, the mango will be coming from the Zappa, but the Zappa's also giving you the minty characteristics. So that's interesting, actually. Makes sense. But yeah, the Belma's the one that's going to give you... I'm getting quite a bit of orange out of this. So the orange is supposed to come from the Belma. I definitely get a lot of orange. So yeah, I think for me, a lot of juicy mango in this. I can definitely pick up a wee bit of the melon underneath as well. And then you've got that wee minty aspect to it. The mintiness is quite interesting. It comes out right in the top of the nose. So take the aroma in very deeply, and you'll see what I mean. The fruitiness just has a wee bit of like a minty menthol thing sitting underneath it. Yeah, a wee bit of a minty menthol kind of thing. But yeah, a nice little bit of a minty menthol sort of thing. And you've also got, as we say, you've got a little bit of, you just get quite a lot of orange out of this as well. So for me, big oily orange, a lot of mango, and a lot of, how would we say it, just a little bit of melon sitting underneath. I'm trying to see if I get any of the strawberry. Maybe at the very front tip of the nose, there's a wee touch of like an almost candied strawberry coming out of this. It certainly has a really unusual fruity profile, this one. So it's an interesting combination of hops. The Zappa, Belma together with Citra. So yeah, that's interesting. I do wonder if the Citra could be showing a little bit more of its lychee side, but I always found that comes out a little bit more in the West Coasters than the New Englands when you use Citra. But yeah, a lot of mango. Yeah, a lot of mango. Some nice, yeah, a lot of mango. Wee bit of melon underneath, and then yeah, some orange and kind of slightly strawberry flavors, aromas rather, and things like that. So yeah. I think we can leave it at that for the aroma, but as I always say, take a bit of time to enjoy that aroma before you get stuck in. But let's taste this beer now and see how we go. So this one is the Hyperspace Ghost, a New England IPA coming in at 6.7% ABV from Gamma Brewing Company. Let's get stuck in. Slàinte, skål, cheers. Yeah, that's pretty nice actually. Quite smooth and quite soft and juicy, as you always get from Gamma Brewing actually. So yeah, this is pretty good. You can taste as well, it is kind of at the edge of its prime, I would say. So if you're watching this video, then drink it now. Definitely drink it now. But yeah, first impression of this one, compared to some of the other Gamma ones that I've had in fairly recent times, this one's actually very soft, juicy and very slick. So that is interesting. But this beer, it's in better condition than the Cairo was, definitely. And this is something that I've criticised Systembolaget for, actually, is not getting some of these beers out there fast enough. But I think they're getting better with this one. This is definitely in better condition than the Cairo was that we had from Gamma Brewing last month. I always like to try and pick up the Gamma Brewing beer that comes through Systembolaget, of course. But yeah, this one is in good condition. So thumbs up to both Gamma and Systembolaget for sorting that out a little bit. But yeah, this is a lovely soft and juicy and quite light New England IPA, I have to say. So let's break the flavour of this one down then for you and describe it a wee bit more in depth, as we always do. This one's actually quite similar to what you would expect from the malt, from the aroma, but it feels lighter. It really does feel lighter. So middle of your palate, then you've got that nice kind of bread crusty. The middle third of your palate, you've got that nice kind of bread crusty backbone there. So yeah, a wee bit of a bread crusty, grainy sort of thing. Sitting on top of that, you've got a soft kind of fluffy. You've got a soft, fluffy white bread. And then, yeah, on top of that, you can feel the wheaty layer just sitting out. And I find the wheat in this beer is actually quite bitey, which is kind of interesting. So yeah, bread crusty backbone, a little bit of a wheaty, bread crusty backbone, soft white bread from the barley malt, and then a slightly thicker wheaty layer sitting on top of that. Yeah. Yeah, and then sitting on top of the wheaty layer, you get the oats. So I do like how that, yeah, I do like how all of that goes together. But yeah, nice kind of, the wheaty layer on this, it actually gets thicker and thicker the further you go into the aftertaste. But then sitting on top of that, you get the oats, and the oats are interesting this because they kind of sit in the arch of your tongue a little bit. You can feel that nice thick, smooth oaty layer just going right down the middle line of your tongue, and then as you move out from that middle line of your tongue, it's a little bit smoother, and you start to get a wee bit of the kind of drier aspect of the oat in there as well. So yeah, that works nicely. So yeah, I'm trying to see this beer. It doesn't have, I thought it might have a little bit of sweetness to it, but this beer is actually, it's almost a little bit more like some of the old school New England IPAs from here in Sweden back in, say, like, 2015, 2016, the amazing, a la the Amazing Haze, the GBG Beer Week, the Narangi, stuff like this. It is more of a kind of bready, barley malt New England IPA. That's just, from what I'm kind of picking up, it feels a little bit more barley malt heavy than being oaty and creamy and stuff. But there is a fair bit of wheat in this, but the wheat sits a little bit further back. So yeah, that's interesting. I mean, in the dead centre of the palate, there's a little circle. I do get a little bit of a circle there. Yeah, I do get a wee circle right in the middle of my palate, and that's, you get a wee touch of that Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy sort of thing. Maybe, pardon me, a wee touch of McVitie's Digestive Biscuit as you move further out from that. But yeah, I do like, as I say, I do like how all that goes together. But in terms of the middle third of your palate, this is one of the lighter ones that I can remember having had from Gamma over the last wee while, but good, it is good. Let's focus on the back third of the palate then. I don't think we need to say any more about the middle third. So, border region between middle third and back third of your palate. Then again, you get a wee bit of that bread crusty build up there. So I do like that, nice bread crusty build up. Then the base of the back third of the palate, it has got a nice little bit of a kind of grainy, bread crusty sort of thing to it. So I do like that. Sitting on top of all of that though, you get a thicker white bready. You do get a nice kind of thicker white bready layer coming out of this, so that's good. But the breadiness, of course, is a little bit more grainy. Then sitting on top of that, you start to get more of a kind of wheaty, bitey sort of thing. So yeah, the wheaty bitiness that you get out of this beer is quite nice actually. So yeah, you can feel the wheaty bitiness really kind of comes out a lot more the further you go into the aftertaste with this beer. And as I said, this one starts to lean towards that wheaty side of things later on. But sitting on top of the wheaty layer, you've got a nice kind of yeasty character too. So yeah, the way that goes together, is a wee bit more. It's kind of interesting. It's actually a slightly sweet yeasty character. So I get a bit of cracker out of it. I do get a little bit of that Jacob's cream cracker sort of thing. There's a wee bit of a kind of, hedgehog bread crusty sort of thing, and also a little bit of, as we say, there's also a little bit of a yeasty note in there as well. So yeah, you feel that slightly more dense. What I mean by yeasty is that more dense, doughy bready sort of thing. So yeah, a bit of bread crust, a little bit of a crackery sort of thing, and then a wee bit of that more dense, doughy white bready yeast. So yeah, I like how this goes together. But definitely on the back third of the palate, the malty character is a little bit, the height of the flavour on the back third of the palate is a little bit taller. As you come further forward, it just squashes down a wee bit, and there you go. But on the, I think we should move on to the hoppy side of things for this beer. Now this beer does have a wee bit more earthiness than I was picking up in the aroma, but as you move, that's in the back corners of the palate, but as you move further forward along to the kind of front corners on the front side of your tongue, around the front curve of your palate, you've got a little bit more of that lighter, grassy sort of thing coming out of the beer, and I do like how that goes together as well. I think that is very, very nice. So yeah, green component of this one, it does actually have quite a bit of a floral, a deep floral and slightly spicy aromatic sort of thing to it, but a nice kind of grassy zestiness also. So that works. That definitely works. So yeah, yeah, the grassy zesty side of this beer is pretty nice, I have to say. But yeah, let's focus on the front third of your palate then, and the fruity component of the beer. So border region between front third and middle third of your palate, you get a nice little bit of bready build up in there. You can feel that wee bit of bread crust, and then the base of the front third of your palate is a little bit more of a smooth brown bread crusty sort of thing. And on top of that, you get that nice oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. And this one, yeah, this is quite interesting, I have to say. Quite like the aroma. So let's pick these out. So, yeah, you can pick out quite a few of the things that we were getting in the aroma with this. So at the back of that front third of the palate, there's a wee touch of passion fruit in there. That's going to come from the citra, of course, but as you move further forward, it does develop to quite a bright mango. There's maybe a wee touch of like pineapple sitting under that, and maybe a wee bit of melon. You do get a wee bit of that stronger melon. Now it's interesting because I'm trying to figure out where the minty character's coming out, because I think the mintiness that you get out of the Zappa in this one, that develops the further into the aftertaste you go. You do get just this little bit of freshness on the kind of front corners of your palate, and that is really interesting. So yeah, the way that goes together, I think, is really nice. But yeah, this beer is really, it makes you think. It really does make you think. So yeah, passion fruit, big juicy mango, wee touch of pineapple, but a bit of melon sitting underneath that on the back half of that front third of your palate. But yeah, as you move further forward, you get this You can feel a more oily, orangey sort of thing, which is going to come from the Belma. And the melon, of course, will come from the Belma too. But underneath, you do taste this. You taste this kind of minty character, which is really interesting. But it spreads out towards the side of the palate. So the way that all goes together, I think, is it's really very nice. It's a really interesting fruity component, this one. Very unusual compared to any other New England IPA that I've had in recent times. So yeah, a bit of orange, a lot of mango, wee bit of melon underneath, a wee bit of stronger passion fruit, and then it's just got a bit of a minty layer underneath. And that takes a bit of time to come out, actually. So yeah, this is a really very quirky New England IPA, but you know, Gamma Brewing, they're very capable in this particular style, so I'm not surprised that this one's kind of caught the imagination a little bit. So yeah, I think we can leave it at that for describing the flavour of this one. The fruity side of this beer is really what makes it stand out, but definitely more of a barley malt leaning New England IPA. Let's round off the review with a wee look at the mouthfeel then. So like I said, this one's a little bit lighter. It's kind of right in the middle of the scale, mid-bodied. Carbonation is quite smooth, and it feels a little bit just lighter and wetter almost. I think we can definitely say that. Yeah, lighter and wetter. New England IPA, this one. In terms of its IBUs, I think it's a fairly standard, 20, I think this might be, 20 or 25 IBUs, which is fairly standard for this style. The mintiness that you get out of it makes it feel a little bit more kind of bitter the further into the aftertaste that you go. The malt base, as we said, is a little bit more kind of barley malt leaning and a wee touch grainy. There's a very small amount of sweetness to it, but yeah, mainly a grainy malt base, to be honest, and a bit of a wheaty bitiness. And the fruity character, I think, is the most kind of quirky point in this. A wee bit of mint underneath and some nice oily orange, and a little bit of softer kind of tropical fruit too. But yeah, this is definitely a beer that's kept me on my toes a little bit. And after 3,200 reviews, this is this is what you want from a New England IPA, something that's going to test you a little bit. This is quite different to other ones I've had in recent times. But yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this review. So yeah, this one is the Hyperspace Ghost New England IPA, 6.7% ABV from Gamma Brewing Company in Herlev in the northwest of Copenhagen. So yeah, have a go at this beer for yourself and see what you think, because that is quite unique actually. The Zappa hop is doing some really interesting things in this. But yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Gamma Brewing Company. And we will, of course, return to these guys at some point in the fairly near future. Check out my social media, check out theirs, and I'll see you on the next one. Slàinte, skål, and cheers.